I once had a woman complain about lines on Black Friday and sit on the floor in protest. Retailer workers of Reddit, what is your best/worst Black Friday story? I worked as a supervisor at Toys R Us for several years. On Black Friday, we opened at midnight, and you basically hug the wall and hope you don't get crushed, so you are stuck in the same spot for hours. This grown woman was about 500th in the first wave. She told me the lines were too long. I told her that's what happens on Black Friday. She said we should make them shorter. It hurt my brain, but I explained that every register was open. She said she wanted to go to the front. I told her that everyone does, and that's why we have a line. She asked to see my manager. I told her that isn't possible, because there were over 2,000 people in the store. She threw a tantrum and sat on the floor in the middle of the line. Whenever the line moved, she would push her cart and crawl after it, then resume sitting on the floor with her arms crossed. That said, everyone who has worked retail today has seen the worst humanity has to offer. I'd like to hear your best. Working at a mall on Black Friday as a teenager. My store manager scheduled 2 people to man the store until 11 AM. Came in and wondered why the store was a mess with a line wrapped around the store. My co-worker stood on the counter and announced to the store that this man was the genius that only scheduled 2 people because in his words Black Friday is just media hype. We were also robbed blind, with not being able to leave the registers. Man, your manager is special. He was quite special indeed. He also wasn't employed much longer. None of us were. They replaced him with a manager from a nearby store. The new manager brought most of his staff with him and fired the rest of us. I worked in home theater at a Best Buy in Southern California in 2006. We had this really shitty Pioneer home theater in a box, HTIB, that retailed normally for $200. It was on sale for $150. We had literally 500 in stock. They were ducking everywhere, in every aisle of home theater, in the overstock, warehouse, floor shelves, overhead storage, everywhere. We had a few pallets on the racetrack that we would keep stocked as best we could throughout the day. Well, as happens on Black Friday, we got busy and the pile dwindled, so there was only one on the pallets. Never mind that, anyone with eyes can see we have hundreds more around. Only one on the pallet must be the last one in the store. Well, this lady grabs it and puts it in her cart. Some guy was clearly moving for it but was beat. Lady is oblivious. So she turns down a movie aisle and proceeds to look through one of the bins filled with random $2.99 DVDs. The dude sneaks up behind her and lifts the HTIB off her cart and starts to walk off. He gets about 10 feet before this very large older man, early 50s I'd guess, says, "No you don't mother ducker," and delivers him a square punch, more of a jab really, in the jaw. The would-be thief falls into one of the DVD shelves and drops the HTIB. The older guy then picks it up, puts it back on the lady's cart, she's still oblivious, and walks away. As the thief, who was clearly shocked and confused more than injured, stands up, he sees me and my co-worker staring at him bewildered, each holding more of the HTIB units he was trying to steal in our arms as we were just restocking the pallet. The guy stands up, walks over, grabs one, and walks away without saying a word. That was about the best I've ever seen. I worked 4 Black Fridays in all, and never saw anything more bizarre and outrageous than that. Worked for a small and independent video game store. We had a great rapport with the regulars. On Black Friday we were out of PS2's launch year, early in the morning. People were angry. A cool as ice regular who bought one earlier and came back for a memory card walked on in. Saw what was happening, grabbed the PS2 box out of his car, walked in with it held above his head and shouted, "They have them at Sears." The store cleared out of everyone wanting just the core system. Sears never got their shipment. In my store, we had a line set up, going from when you enter the store you enter the line, which is near the entrance, and then this line will span all over the store, so you will be able to pick up any item without leaving the line. A woman stormed into the shop with an empty shopping cart and her 2 small children. She pushed through the line with a huge cart, elbowing everyone to the side, so her and her children could get past. She went to the electronics section and picked up about 50 DVDs. then pushed to the last register, which was quite hard to reach, since you had to push through 8 different lines, and then just stood there and waited. She waited until someone was not paying attention enough, and then quickly just took the spot and put her stuff on the register. We had a 16-year-old boy in said register, and he had to tell her that this was not the way things worked. She demanded to talk to a manager. So one of our managers came over and explained to her what she did wrong. She explained that she thought the line was too long, so she took the spot because the guy behind her was not paying attention enough, and she didn't want to wait in the line. Our manager told her to either get back in the line or out of the store, and then she slapped him. Yes, she open-handed slapped him. I got a little angry even hearing this, but he retaliated and slapped her back. She screamed and called for security. The security laughed at her after the members of the line backed our manager up, and she and her kids was escorted out the store. I should also mention it took quite some physical force to actually get this woman out of the store. She tried coming back and doing the same thing another register twice. Ain't nobody got time for waiting in line. I had this happen today. Where I work we're open at 9 PM Thanksgiving Day and don't close until 11 PM Black Friday. I was a line queer, which means I direct people to the end of the line and let people go to the register when it is empty. We only have one register in electronics. A woman stood behind the person at the register, and my line was already 200 long, so I went up to her and said, "If you're ready to check out, our electronics line actually starts back here." Her reply, "So? I want to check out now." "I understand, ma'am. Everyone else here wants to check out as well, and the people you would be cutting in front of have been waiting for an hour plus. Open more registers then." All of our registers are open including our pharmacy. There are over 1,500 people in the store right now, and we are moving as fast as we can. It continued for a good 5 minutes until she rammed her cart into my stomach and stormed out. People are so stupid. Even though I worked at Walmart for almost 11 years, I somehow avoided the worst of the Black Friday crowds. Still, here are some highlights. Cart stealing. Every damn year. Never put a doorbuster item in your cart and turn your back. Cops arresting someone for stealing a cart with a woman's purse in it. Layaway lines that stretched almost 3/4 of the perimeter of the store. People would try to sneak into line and nearly get beaten by the people behind them. Customers asking electronics associates if they'll watch their kids so they can shop. Happened more than once. Multiple workers reduced to tears by customers literally screaming at them, including a poor 18-year-old girl that was called an ignorant whore because the store ran out of Game Boys. More than one of these people were thrown out of the store. A guy that bought 2 Tickle Me Elmo dolls, then waited until the store was sold out. He stood in the parking lot trying to sell it for like $300. His 10 or 11-year-old stood just behind him holding a bat, just in case. By far the best was 3 grandmothers getting into a literal fist fight over the last Furby. A full-on brawl, rolling around on the floor, kicking and punching. Nobody knew what to do. It took 2 women and a manager to pull them apart. It was the most screwed up thing I've ever seen. Today, one of our male customers hit another male customer upside the head with a crock pot. What were they fighting over? The crock pot. Both customers had to be dragged out of the store by the police. I worked in a smaller retail store that only had 4 registers. Black Friday comes, and lines for the registers are to the back of the store. Woman in line complains that the lines are too long, and we need to do something. I tell her that all registers are open. She calls me a liar and gets out of line to prove I'm wrong. Walks to the front, sees all registers open, then wants to get back in line. I inform her that she left the line and would have to go to the back. My own little Black Friday victory. Not retail, but I used to work at a local pizza and beer place that's pretty well known around my city. A lady comes in for lunch, exhausted from having been at the stores and completely incapable of going more than 5 seconds without telling anyone within earshot how dedicated to shopping she was, and how much money she was saving. She proceeds to ask me what our Black Friday specials were. Well, we are a pizza shop. We did have a lunch special every day, so I told her what it was. This was apparently too much for her to handle. She proceeds to lose her freaking mind, shrieking at me about how she has been up since before dawn, and everyone else in America has a Black Friday special, so why don't we? I don't think the South Park episode had aired yet, but she ended her rant with, "I thought I was in America. I am still in America, right?" That was the second customer I ever told to F off while working at that establishment. That was also the 1000th time I realized that while working in restaurants can be awful, at least I wasn't working retail. I was working in a Best Buy at a large Midwestern mall a few years ago. There was a sale on 32-inch flat panel TVs for $199, which was extremely cheap at the time. The store was mobbed, and the checkout lines were insanely long. Not only that, but the server for the credit card verification was having trouble, and it was taking a long time to run cards. I estimate it was taking more than an hour and a half to check out. A very obese black woman, wearing nothing but a t-shirt, red tights, and heels, was waiting in line with one of the TV sets in her cart. She was by herself. The people standing near her began to curse and back off. Some even left the line. It turns out she had to take a huge dump, but refused to leave the line, so she let it go in her red tights. The smell was beyond imagination. It could make you gag and vomit in your mouth. You could see the feces lumped around her anus in the tights, no underwear, and liquid dripped out onto the floor. She refused to leave the line. Finally the manager escorted her to the front, making him sick and turn green, let her pay, and she left the store. The stench lingered for days. When I was 19 I was working for Walmart. This particular Black Friday was the beginning of the wild banshee craze that is so prevalent nowadays. I got pulled into the back only to find pallets of goods ready to hit the floor. The manager that pulled me in gave me the second pallet from the door. It was full of 27-inch tube TVs, not flat screen. Heavy, bulky tube TVs. He looked me right in the eyes and said, "Son, something isn't right about them people out there. Just pull the pallet, drop it, and run." He proceeded to kick the swinging doors like a superhero. I followed him into the zombie horde known as the customer. The pallet was so heavy, I was at a 45 to the floor, and struggling to get it going. I was 20 feet into the crowd when my pallet crashed into my heels. I turned around only to find all of my 27-inch tube TVs had been ripped off of my pallet. It was done so fast that I didn't even feel the weight change. It just crashed into my heels and cut both of my ankles. My boss stopped, jumped on top of his pallet of goods, and yelled, "Look here you pathetic f***ts. If any of you try that shit again, we'll shut down the store and none of you welfare bitches are going to have a Merry Christmas." Everyone backed away as he calmly proceeded to his drop point. It was nuts. Afterwards, he pulled me out back and gave me a smoke, while we got our story straight about what he really said. He was a good guy. Several years ago, I worked at a Best Buy while in college. It was Black Friday, and one of our door crasher deals was a piece of shit DVD player that was going for dirt cheap. Note DVD players were still fairly expensive at the time. A man in a wheelchair gets one, and is trying to navigate to the massive checkout line. Some asshole comes up to him, grabs the DVD player off his lap, and does a bit of a football side shuffle type of thing, like he's shuffling his feet trying to determine his best course of escape, and just bolts it for the checkout line and cuts in somewhere in hopes of blending in. I saw the whole thing go down and was just shocked. I quickly go to the back and find one of the DVD players that a buddy of mine had stashed to buy at the end of his shift. Told him the story. He was more than happy to give the DVD player to this dude. I give it to the guy and he's very thankful. I also make sure he gets to the front of the line to check out. I was pretty amazed by how smoothly our sales went at GameStop at midnight. We had a line, but everybody was very pleasant and thanked us workers for being open. You gotta love how chill gamers are. Unless they are on the other end of a headset, and gaming while under the influence of being 12.